let's say a woman and 3 men going for a job. 2 of the men are really good, one's not good, so it doesn't count, and the woman's not quite as good as the men, but she gets the job anyway. That will create injustice. It'll create a feeling on the woman that she maybe didn't deserve the job. It'll create a resentment on the part of the men. That doesn't advance equality in society at all. It actually sets it back.
On this project, they want to leave a concrete legacy of a more diverse construction industry. The question is, what tools do you use when it comes to the rest of society?
And I'm joined now by Yasmin Alibhai-Brown. She's a columnist for The Independent, and by Munira Mirza. She's the Deputy Mayor of London, responsible for education and culture. They're going to go head to head. So, a cabinet reshuffle coming up on Tuesday. Should David Cameron be promoting women because they're women, Yasmin?
Well, he's going to do it anyway. He is going to promote women because
Should he?
Of course. I mean, he should have a long time ago. I think it's a bit, it doesn't feel quite right that a few months before the election, it would do the party a lot of good to be seen as a party properly reflective of the entire population.
So he should promote women because they're women?
Well, I think he should think about lots of different factors, whether the people that he wants to promote have proven themselves in their current briefs, whether they're good performers in the media, whether they represent different parts of his political party. But I think the main principle is that he promotes people on the basis of merit. And there are actually many talented women who fulfill that description. But it should be that merit is the important thing rather than what you were born with. And the thing about positive discrimination is that it flies in the face of that kind of principle.
But should he be given? You're shaking your head.
No, because I think we've always had positive discrimination, that men of a certain class have appointed in their own image, you know, because they're those people they feel most comfortable with. So we've had unspoken positive discrimination in this country, in every other country, actually, frankly, throughout history. So we're just asking, as women or minorities, let us get into the same game.
What would you say to that?
Well, you can't solve the racism or the sexism of the past by more racism and sexism.
But it's not the past, it's now, isn't it?
There are really complex reasons why a smaller number of women will appear in certain industries, and it has a lot to do with childcare and to do with education and expectations. And you can't shortcut that process by just setting a target. That's not how you achieve equality. It does take time. Things are changing. There are more women appearing in the engineering industry and so on. But it will take time. And my worry is that these kinds of measures are very counterproductive and actually undermine the perception that women can do it on their own merit rather than because they need a helping hand. Somehow they shouldn't be treated equally.
It's not a helping hand. It is to say we are as good as men, and these hidden barriers, I mean, there are only 3 reasons why women aren't in the places they should be. Either they're not as good, which still has to be proved, or they don't want it, which is just how we persuade ourselves it's not happening, or there are barriers. And how we judge meritocracy is at the heart of it.
Well, I would argue that there are lots of industries where there aren't that many women who choose to go into them traditionally, such as engineering, and there has to be a recruitment drive. We need more engineers generally in this country, and I think it's fine to try and encourage more women, more people in general at school to study that subject. But by setting a target, what you do is you put a pressure on an organisation to choose somebody who is not appropriate for the job. And you try and ignore the really complex reasons why women don't go into those sectors.
Let me take the case of Harriet Harman. She says that if Labour wins the election, she expects to be Deputy Prime Minister because the job should be held by a woman, if there's a male Prime Minister. Is that a proper basis on which to decide the Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, I think the all-female shortlist achieved a miracle in Parliament. From 3%, it went up to more than 20%.
But what's the answer about the Harriet Harman point?
So absolutely. This is following up from having an injection of women come in because the system was changed. And most of the women, I would say a large percent of women who went into Parliament under the all-female shortlist were brilliant. So why not?
Let me just get clear what you're saying, that if the Prime Minister is male, the Deputy Prime Minister has to be female?
50% of the population,
And if
52.
And if the Prime Minister is female, does the Deputy have to be male?
Yes, absolutely.
But what if there's two fantastic women who could do both jobs?
Well, I think we need to reflect the population. And it would be
What's
great.
the answer to my question?
Well, the answer is, if we want to play this as a symbolic gesture, who is the Prime Minister, who's the Deputy Prime Minister? Ideally, we should have one of either
Why
gender.
should the man get the job if you've got a great female Prime Minister and a great...
Well, I personally wouldn't mind that, but I personally wouldn't mind that, but I hear David Davis and I hear the silent, disgruntled men, and I want them to come with us on this, not to be against us.
What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you will feel resentment because you are clearly choosing people on the basis of the traits that they were born with. I mean, what is the absolute right proportion of any group in any job? Are there too many Indian doctors in the NHS, for instance? I would argue not.
Would you say... If, given that we tend to have male Prime Ministers rather than female ones, and we don't see another female one coming down the pike very quickly. We've only had one in our long history.
In a time before all women shortlists, by the way.
Wouldn't it, to have a, if you've got a male Prime Minister, having a female Deputy Prime Minister, wouldn't that be a little bit of balance? You get a different voice at the very head of government?
Well, you know, why women? Why not a working class person? Why not an ethnic minority? Which group do you prioritise?
Well,
and the point is that
all these groups are underrepresented, and I would go with you that we need something fundamental to change. And this idea that what we have now is a reflection of a genuine meritocracy is highly questionable.
Well, I would argue that when you look at the statistics, things are changing. There are more women appearing in parts of public life. That is a long-term trend. But if you try and appoint people on the basis of how they were born, what they were born with...
No, they're not. That's not the only reason. That is the additional reason. She has to be able to do the job, obviously.
But I'm saying that the policies of positive discrimination explicitly state that you should be choosing somebody who is a female because they're a female.
But because they're able to do the job, as they are able to do the job.
At the moment, there is already enough suspicion about women who are successful, who do get those senior positions. And if you institutionalise it, you reinforce that suspicion. Harriet Harman, after 2 decades of all women shortlists, is still complaining that women are not treated equally in the Labour Party. Either the policy is completely ineffective, or, even worse, it reinforces the prejudice that women are not getting there because they are being treated on the same basis.
Didn't the old Labour shortlist, the old female shortlist, although you may not want to have that forever, wasn't that the kind of shock to the system that made a visible change in female representation on the Labour side, which the Tory side still hasn't gotten here?
Well, I mean, you will have, obviously, a short-term impact. You will get more women into positions if you only allow women to apply. But in the longer term, it has a very degrading effect on the principle of equality. And, in fact, the fact that Harriet Harman is now saying she wasn't treated equally, whether that's true or not, is that the perception is still there. So I don't think you can have these so-called short-term measures that last decades.
A number of women find this position must be reserved for a woman line a little bit patronising. And speaking of patronising women, you wrote in your Independent column of Munira that a pretty little thing but with a sharp beak. She presses all the right buttons for white people. Was that both patronising and offensive?
Probably.
Why did you write it then?
Because that's what I felt at the time. We'd had a big bust-up. And but the point is, I was a token when I was appointed. Absolutely. The paper brought me in because I was a woman and I was a Muslim and whatever. That was fine. That's the first pebble.
But you weren't writing about yourself, you were writing about her.
Well, are you asking me why I was writing that column or what? No, I was writing... It doesn't mean you don't criticise other women. Munira has criticised me, I criticise other women. I'm not saying women should be sheltered and cushioned. I'm saying let them go in and then we have to be tough. We absolutely have to be tough. She's very tough, so am I.
Do you want to take back what you wrote?
No.
You don't? Okay. No. So it's not an apology?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I'm a columnist.
Do you really think that positive discrimination, to use the American phrase, has gone too far?
I think there is already a suspicion out there that in certain industries and certain sectors, women are being promoted for the wrong reasons, or ethnic minorities are being promoted for the wrong reasons. I think that's a great shame. And my worry is that by making explicit policies, by tying funding to your ethnicity or your gender, by saying that you'll get a promotion if you tick that box, that you fuel that resentment, that prejudice, and actually you undermine the case for equality. I don't want to be given a job because I tick that box. I want to be given a job and treated equally by my peers because I'm seen to be capable of doing that job.
We have to leave it there. Thank you both.